Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Esri GeoDev webinar series. We started this series as a way to continue engaging in developer-related topics and discussions in between dev summits. Along with our developer summits, we also have our annual user conference coming up July 12th through 15th. This year, we are hosting the event virtually, and we'll have an ArcGIS platform for developers track, so be sure to check it out if you do attend. Moving forward, in continuation of our GeoDev webinar series, we will have new topics, advanced features, and additional functionality to share with you. So be sure to stay connected with us through our GeoDev webinar series page or any of our social media accounts at Esri GeoDev. We would love to have conversations like these taking place throughout the year so that when we do meet at one of these Dev Summit conferences, it will be as though we never stopped. We hope you get as much or more out of this webinar than you anticipated. Now we would like to introduce you to today's webinar, Accelerate Mobile Development with ArcGIS AppStudio. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. We've taken a screenshot of an example of the attendees interface. You should see something that looks like this on your own computer desktop in the upper right corner. You're listening in using your computer's speaker system by default. If you would prefer to join over the phone, just select Use Telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. I would now like to introduce one of our presenters, Chris LeSueur. Let's get started, shall we, Chris?
Thank you, Amy. Hi, I'm Chris LeSueur. I am the product manager for ArcGIS AppStudio. And joining me also today, we have Erwin.
Hi, I'm Erwin Sukianto. I'm a product engineer and product evangelist for ArcGIS AppStudio. Welcome, everyone.
We're excited to present this session, this webinar to you today. I want to give you a brief rundown of what we're going to talk about. We're going to give a little overview, a short overview of ArcGIS AppStudio, some examples of apps that have been built with it, and then talk about five of the ways you can accelerate your mobile development with ArcGIS AppStudio. After that, we're going to actually show a pretty lengthy demo where we'll go through the different steps of building an app, from configuring an app to enhancing an app, and then actually seeing some custom code in the app and how you can write custom code for these AppStudio apps. All around, all showing you the different elements of accelerating mobile app development with these tools. So we've got a lot to cover today. We'll jump right into it. So what is ArcGIS AppStudio? It is a low-code, no-code solution for creating native apps. So low-code, no-code, meaning that we offer a lot of help to get you started. We give you templates. We give you interactive samples. We make it easier to create apps, whether you're writing no code or just configuring, or you're just want to add a little bit of code to these apps. And these are native apps, so they run natively. They get installed as a separate application on your devices. They're not web apps. So why native apps? Why are native apps important as opposed to maybe using a web? Well, there's various reasons. Some of the main reasons are people want to run offline, particularly when we're talking about mapping applications that they want to use in the field. Maybe they don't have connectivity, and offline is critical. So people use native apps to take their data and information and maps offline. Also, with a native app, you can access some of the device capabilities. You can access maybe Bluetooth or the camera capabilities, connect to different sensors. You can also access some of the operating system capabilities like the share menu. So there's more capabilities that you have access to when using a native app. And then there's also the app stores, and this is important for many people. They want to get their apps out to the public. They want to do that through an app store, or maybe they have an enterprise app store in their organization and they want that they push apps to. So this is a key element, is that with native apps, you can publish these, particularly on mobile devices. You can publish these to the app store, such as the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Now with that, let's review a few of the apps or the kinds of apps that people are building today with ArcGIS AppStudio. We see people building public information apps, such as this Detour Ohio Trails apps built by the state of Ohio that allows you to see trails in different locations, allows you to zoom in, get information about those trails, and then take them offline so you go hiking. Typically, these kind of apps are published into public app stores so people can get them easily and readily download them from those app stores. We see data collection apps being built with AppStudio. A couple of professional GIS data collection apps are Survey123 and Quick Capture. Those are created by Esri, and those are created using AppStudio. So you can build these advanced data collection apps. You can also build data collection apps that are maybe focused on crowdsourcing or citizen science, where you want to capture information from the public. An example of this is Q Wildlife from Queensland, Australia. This allows the public to report when they spot a saltwater crocodile. So these type of apps are very popular, gathering information that's crowdsourced information from the public. We also see business apps, and I would define a business app as an app that you would typically do on a desktop or maybe in a web browser, but you want a mobile experience. You want it to be installed locally on your device. You want to access it often and have that good mobile experience. An example of this would be the Esri support app, which is available from our support department. It's built using AppStudio, and it's in the app stores and allows you to access information about your support calls, keep track of them, and interact with our support team through a native app. And then we see enterprise apps being built as well. Enterprise apps have they're built with a focused workflow to accomplish a specific task. Dig Alert is one example. This is a call before you dig example where someone might be going out to, they want to know where they can dig in their yard, so they call Dig Alert, and someone comes out with this application and their tools to know where they can dig those lines. Or this WFA Fire Sim by our partner TechnoSilva. This is a fire simulation application which allows wildfire firefighters to take fire simulations out into the field so they can know not only the current maybe perimeter of a wildfire, but know where it's expected to move and propagate. And these are just a couple of examples of enterprise apps built with ArcGIS AppStudio. Now I want to talk about 5 key ways that ArcGIS can help you accelerate your mobile development. And first, I wanted to talk about that AppStudio is integrated with ArcGIS, meaning it's integrated with the other elements of ArcGIS from Esri. So one key element is that AppStudio apps can consume web maps. So if you create a web map in ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, your AppStudio app can consume that. It means you've already defined the feature layers, what they're going to look like. You've already selected the base maps you want. You've created bookmarks maybe. You've created the map symbology and set it up the way you want, and maybe define some editing rules. So the apps you build with AppStudio can read the whole web map and do all this. So you don't have to code each of these separately. It also works offline with things like mobile map packages. So you can create a mobile map package in ArcGIS Pro and then use that as your base map or as your full map in your AppStudio app. And AppStudio works with named users. So you can have an app where it's publicly available data, anyone can just use it, or they can log in with an ArcGIS named user account. So this gives you an easy way to secure your apps and also your maps and data with this named user account that you might already be using in your organization. Just overall, AppStudio, it's part of the ArcGIS system. So it works with ArcGIS Online. It works with ArcGIS Enterprise. You can read information from Online or Enterprise. You can create data for it using Desktop. You can connect and interact with other ArcGIS apps using your AppStudio app. So it's an overall piece of this greater system. And with that, it helps you to quickly if you're already using these tools to quickly build your mobile apps. All right, number 2, a way to accelerate is by the use of ArcGIS Desktop. Now, ArcGIS Desktop is really a one-stop application for creating and managing your apps. It's an application you can download from Esri website. It's available for Windows, Mac, and even Ubuntu Linux. It allows you to start your app projects, create new projects, configure settings, upload and manage those apps. And there's a few key parts that I want to point out. There's over 80 interactive samples within this, so you can not only see a sample of the code, but see how it works, and then use that in your own app. It includes a number of configurable templates, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And it also includes a development environment, a full IDE, which you can customize code, gets installed when you install the ArcGIS Desktop. We'll see that later in the presentation. And there's also some advanced templates, things like Survey 123 and Quick Capture. So we give you those templates so you can actually customize those and make those apps your own with your own branding or custom functionality if you'd like to. So AppStudio Desktop is a great tool and helps people quickly build and manage their AppStudio apps. Number 3, app templates. App templates are where new AppStudio users typically get started. So these are some ready-to-use configurable templates. There is no coding required to use these. You can just simply add your text, your colors, your images, point them to the right maps that you've created, and use these templates. But the source code is available. So if you do need to customize, if you do want to add more to these, you can do that. So we have a number of templates. We have the map viewer, the map tour, quick report, and the 3D scene viewer templates. And then we've recently, we have some newer templates. Last December, we released the attachment viewer template. And we're about to release, just in the next couple of weeks here, a new zone lookup template and a nearby template. These 3 new templates are unique in that they actually work with a new web configuration. So you configure a web application, an instant app or a configurable web app before you use one of these templates. So you create the web map, configure the web application, and then that configuration gets read and used by the native app. We'll give a demonstration of that in just a few minutes. Number 4, AppStudio apps are cross-platform. And of course, this helps accelerate your mobile development because you don't have to build your apps multiple times. It's really a create once and then run this everywhere. Run it on mobile devices, run it on desktop devices. So we support, various mobile devices, iPhones, iPads, Android smartphones and tablets, and Windows tablets as well. How we do this, a key element of this cross-platform, write once, be able to run everywhere and build everywhere, is that we have a service called the CloudMake service. And this really saves people a lot of time. What is, it's a build service in the cloud. So you don't have to set up your own build machine for, iOS, Android, Windows, all these separate build machines. We host that in the cloud. So you write your app and on whatever platform you would like to, and using our AppStudio Desktop, you upload it to your organization and then call the CloudMake service to create a build for you. So here's a little example. Configuring or writing an app on the desktop, uploading that. It's stored as an item in your organization where the CloudMake service can access it. And then from there, you'll get down the binaries you need. For iOS, an IPA file or an APK file for Android. You'll get those binaries you need that you can download and then do something like publish those to an app store. So CloudMake is a huge time save for people, and overall, the cross-platform capabilities of AppStudio make it very desirable for many of our users. And the last here on how to accelerate mobile app development is that we give you different app deployment options with AppStudio, some unique ways of deploying your apps. So you can publish to app stores, just as I demonstrated kind of in that last little diagram. You can publish your apps to app stores, or you can publish them to an enterprise. And some enterprises have their own, custom versions of app stores. We also support enterprise mobile device management systems, or MDM systems. So if you have an organization that uses one of these, you can use your AppStudio apps with them. And we even support things like app configuration. So you can push down specific configurations from your MDM to your apps. We also make it easy to deploy apps in an organization using AppStudio Player. So AppStudio Player is a native application which allows you to run AppStudio apps. So you can download AppStudio Player from the app stores. It's available on all platforms. And as you can see here from this graphic, you open AppStudio Player, and from AppStudio Player, you then can open any apps that have been shared by you or created by you. And then that app runs within Player, just as a native application. You have access to maps and data. You can take data offline, interact with the app, just as you would if you installed it separately. So what's great about this is it's a really great way to test your apps on multiple devices. You can push new builds or grab new changes of your app onto mobile devices, see what it's going to look like on an iPad, Android tablet, maybe Android phone, and share easily with others. But not only is it for testing, it's a really great way to share your native apps with other ArcGIS users. So there's no App Store or MDM required. You can quickly deploy and update your apps with other users. And you can even give a customized experience. I mean, you can customize AppStudio Player easily with your own branding, colors, or curate just the specific apps that you want users to use. So how does this conceptually work? Well, you build your apps in AppStudio Desktop. You would then simply just upload those to your ArcGIS organization, so ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, and that app gets stored there as an item. It gets stored as an item, just like any item in your organization, and you share it with others using groups, and give those people that are part of that group and it's been shared with can download and install the AppStudio Player application, where they then get access to that app you've created. It could be a single app, it could be multiple apps. But now you're in control of when that app gets updated, who has access to it, by using the ArcGIS named user logins and sharing those to your organization. So it's a really powerful and unique way to deliver custom apps. And these apps can be full apps that can take advantage of sensors. They can take data offline as well. So this is a really powerful way to push your apps out to other users. All right. So those are the 5 ways, or the top 5 ways that really AppStudio helps you accelerate your mobile development. I'm now going to go through a series of demos in a minute, which will take us through many of these key acceleration features. Before that, let's talk about different AppStudio users. So we have different AppStudio users or user personas. One is the GIS user, and this is someone that might have some technical skills. They can, build a web map. They can configure a template. They can use maybe ArcGIS Online or Enterprise as a creator, as a user, and create things. This person can use AppStudio because they can simply configure one of our templates out of the box and create their own app. There's also someone we call a geohacker. Now this is a GIS professional. Maybe they can run and write some Python code. They can dabble in a little bit of HTML and JavaScript, maybe cut and paste code, generally figure out how to get things done. Now, this is a sweet spot for AppStudio use, because these geohackers can really now take these templates, enhance them greater through different coding or scripting, and push those more customized apps out to people when they typically wouldn't be able to build their own native apps. And then, of course, there's professional developers. Maybe we call these the code ninja. They're fluent in at least one programming language. Sometimes they like to start from scratch. They enjoy reading API documentation. These professional developers really love AppStudio for many reasons. One is that cross-platform capabilities and the the Cloud Make service, just being more productive, being able to create apps quickly and across multiple platforms, and being able to access the things they need, like connecting to specific devices, capturing GNSS information in these custom apps. So now looking at these different types of users, let's step through building an app, and we'll focus first on this GIS user. I'm going to do a demo of creating an app using a template. So before I jump into AppStudio, let's look at, I'm going to jump into ArcGIS Online. So here I'm in ArcGIS Online, and I've created a map. This demo I'm going to do is a demo of a fire evacuation map in Southern California. This is not real fire data. There's no fire going on. This is just for demo purposes. But here I have some evacuation zones. I have a fire perimeter, and this is the web map that I've created. I can click on this, and I can get pop-up information about the layer and the different evacuation zones, the bright red being a mandatory evacuation zone. Now from this web map, I can use one of our instant apps, or our configurable web apps, to create a new web application. There's a wizard here in ArcGIS Online I can go through to create this. I'm going to actually create a lookup app. So I want to create an app where they want to know which zone they are in very quickly, a simple app which tells you, hey, here I am, which zone am I in? Or if I click on a map or a zone, what zone is that? So it's a zone lookup template that I'm going to use. And here's kind of the end configuration. And so if I click on one of these areas, I get some information back about that. And click clear. So we want to create, again, a native application that's going to look like this, but as a native app. So here I'm going to jump into AppStudio. I'm in AppStudio Desktop. I've got a number of tools here to help me manage my applications. We're going to create a new app here, so I'll click on the new app button, and I've got a number of examples for new apps. I can look at some templates. We have different just generic layouts to use, samples, and enterprise applications as well. I'm going to go to these templates, and I'm going to use the zone lookup. We're going to call this our new app. We'll say it's a fire evac lookup. That's the name of the new app. I'll hit create. And now it's downloading that template, and it's going to put it here on in AppStudio Desktop. All right, there it is here. It's also showing me these are other apps in my organization that I could download that have been created by others and created by myself. But here on the far left, I have my fire evac lookup. I'm going to open the settings, and we're going to configure this app. So we're not going to write any code in this at this point. We're just going to configure our application. There's that title I put in before. I'm going to actually just put it, copy and paste in here a nice summary that will get shown for users of the app. And then let's go down to a few of the resources. We can add an image, an icon. So our app has an icon. I've created a nice icon for when the app gets installed, as well as a background image. So when the app first launches, we'll have a background image. So I've created a background image for when it launches. You can also change the branding color. So if I don't like the default branding color, general color of this application, I can change that. We have a color picker here, or I can put in a specific hexadecimal value for the color that I like. There's other things I can change, like the fonts and such. We won't go through all of those properties. But now I need to access the web application that I've already created, that zone lookup web application, because we're going to read that configuration. We're going to use that as the basis for our app. So I need to give it an ID. So where do I get this ID? Well, let's jump back here to our application, and you'll see in the URL, there's this long ID number. It's text, and it's numbers and text. So I'll copy that, I'll go back into my AppStudio configuration here, and I'm going to say, I'm going to add it here, ID colon, and then that ID for my application. I'll hit apply. And with that, I'm going to double click on my FireEvac app to see what it looks like. And here we've seen my new branding color, we've seen that background, the title. I'll hit start, and it zooms to, and I see my new map here. I can click on an area, and it tells me whether I'm in an evacuation zone or not. And I can get some information here about the we call this a pop-up information. So information about, from the feature table. All right. Now, just that easy, I was able to create a native app, but without writing any code, just by configuring this application in AppStudio Desktop using a template. So that's from the GIS user perspective. Now let's look at the Geohacker. This is, again, someone that can read and write some scripts and some Python, and maybe listen to a little HTML. I'm going to now enhance my application with, but I'm not going to do it this time in AppStudio Desktop. I'm going to go back to that web map and use some arcade scripting to do that. So let's go back to our web map, and let's look at the pop-up information and the pop-up values for this layer, for my evacuation zone layer. I can configure the pop-ups, and we can see as we click on one of these zones, it gives us, kind of a boring, just tabular view. Now that might not be the best experience that we want in our apps. Let's make this better. I'm going to get rid of this field list. We don't want that. We want to add text. I want to add some different options here. So I can say, we still want the status information in this pop-up. So I'll say status, and if I just hit the curly bracket, I get a list of the different fields that I can pull from. So the status is, let's see, evacuation status. Yep, I want to show that. Maybe I also want to show the current time. So the current time, now I'm going to put a curly bracket here, but I've got one called current time, but this is actually not a field. This is an expression. This is an arcade script that I've created that will pull the current time and display it for me. So add that. I'll say OK, and I click on my map. And now you see the long table's gone. I just say status, no evacuation, and it shows me the current time here. Now this is nice and things, but I can, we can make this better. We can kind of make it more informative and helpful for the user. So we're going to create another arcade script. So I'll add arcade expression. We'll call this warning, and I'm just gonna, I'll copy and paste in this little script, and then we'll talk about what it does. All right. So what this does, it says if the current feature that we've selected, if the evac status field equals evac mandatory, then return extreme hazard, new line, evacuate immediately. All right. So that's what my little expression is going to do. I hit OK. And let's bring it into our pop-up. Say curly bracket. I have one, there it is, the warning that I created. But let's make it a little nicer. Let's make it bold. We're going to change the color to red. We're going to make it big, and we'll center it, because this is important. They need to evacuate. I'll hit OK. And now when I click on the map, see, if I click in this green area, I get the regular pop-up. If I click in the red area, I get this new extreme hazard, evacuate immediately, pop-up. So I created this here using this expression in the web map. I will save this now. We'll save that. And let's go back to AppStudio. And I'll simply run that same app that I've created before, run it again. I'll zoom in again, click on the green area. I get just the basic pop-up information. But if I click on the red area, I get this new pop-up, extreme hazard, evacuate immediately. So I just want to show you that not only is, one thing is that AppStudio is connected to the overall ArcGIS system, right? You create something on the web, it comes into your app. And I'll also show you that to update some of the capabilities of your app, you don't always have to republish and build a new application. You can do a lot just by doing things like configuring the web map, configuring arcade expressions. All right, now with that, let's move on to the next user type, and that's that professional developer. And to help me out here, I'm gonna turn the time over to Erwin Sokianto, who's gonna talk about customizing the app with code.
Thank you, Chris. This is Erwin speaking. So Chris has shown us what someone who are a GIS user or GIS developer or a GIS hacker can do with AppStudio. And most of the time, that's all you need to do, and your app is ready to go. However, there are some scenario where the templates is missing a few functionality, or you would rather build an app from scratch. So in this opportunity, I'm going to show you what you can do if you are or have a developer resources available in your organization. So let's first talk about the programming language that are used in AppStudio. In AppStudio, we are using the programming language called QML and JavaScript. Before I begin explaining what they are, I would like to set the stage and make a comparison with web development. Where in web development, we are using HTML and CSS to do a user interface and JavaScript to do the application logic. So now, creating a native app in AppStudio, we are using QML for the user interface, just like HTML and CSS in web development. QML stands for Qt Modeling Language. It is a declarative language to design and build apps. And also, we are using JavaScript for the application logic, just like in web development. In AppStudio, we are using JavaScript ECMA 7. All right, so now let's get to the demo. Let's change this to my screen. Now you are looking at my screen. This is the AppStudio Desktop in my computer. I have a little bit more app that I'm working on. This here, this is the same app that Chris just created, the fire evac lookup that is based on the zone lookup template. For the purpose of the demo, let's say we play a scenario where Chris wants me to do a customization to add two functionality. Chris wants me to add a notification where whenever a zone is selected and it shows the status of the evacuation zone, Chris wants the app to show a notification on your phone to say that you are in a fire zone, please evacuate immediately, or you're fine, or you need to voluntarily evacuate. And also, Chris wants to add a voice notification to say that you have entered a fire zone and its status. So two things. Chris wants a local notification and a text-to-speech functionality. So to do that, we need to get into the source code of the app. So to get into the source code of the app, you need to right-click and select the app and say Edit in Qt Creator. I have that open here. And with that, it's going to open a separate application called Qt Creator. This is the IDE or the text editor that we are using to manage this source code of the app. These are the source code of the zone lookup template. As you can see, this is the file structure. We have the JSON file, we have the image for the icon, and then inside this folder we have all of the QML file that is defining this template. For example, we are going to look at the zone lookup map page.qml. It has, just like any other source code, it has the import statement uh, for the library that are being used. We are using similar library from Qt Quick, and also we are using library from ArcGIS Runtime SDK, and we are also using a library from AppStudio App Framework. And then if we look below, we have some QML document. We have some QML component with the properties, and then we also have a lot of JavaScript function that are working for the application logic. And for this one, for example, this is a connection to a connection to the QML component. This is how the QML look like. Okay, so Chris told me that he wants to add two functionality, right? Local notification and speech functionality. In order to do that, we need to add an import statement. So let me add two import statement. I'm going to add import ArcGIS App Framework notification.local, and also import ArcGIS App Frameworks.speech. So those are the two things that we need to do. And then the next step, after we add this two import statement to get the library into our source code, and then we need to also define that QML statement, that QML component. So we want a local notification, and then we're going to give it an ID, notification. And then we also need a text to speech, right? So we're going to type text to speech. And then we're also going to give it an ID. We give it text to speech. Okay, so now we have added the import statement, and then we have initialized the QML component so that we can use this functionality from AppStudio App Framework. So the next one, we want to actually add. We wanted to say that show the notification and then do a text to speech whenever a zone is selected. So I have the function that shows special features, and then this is the function whenever we find a zone, and then I'm going to add the code here. We're going to do notification, so I'm going to do notification dot schedule, and then as you can see, it has a code completion, and then tells you what you need. We need a title, so we're going to say you are entering a fire zone, and then it needs a message. The message that I want to show is actually the pop-up title that Chris has just configured in Arcade Expression. So in ArcGIS Online. So I'm going to say pop-up manager. Oops, let me move this. Dot title. Okay, and then I'm going to give it a time. We can choose to show the notification right away, or we can choose to show notification after some time when this code is being executed. And then we also want to have a text-to-speech functionality. Text-to-speech dot say. And then we're going to say what is the pop-up manager title, which is evacuation zone mandatory or voluntary. So I'm going to say pop-up manager dot title. So I hope that this will show you how all of the ArcGIS system is working together. Chris is configuring what the pop-up would say, and then in the code we are actually taking what that pop-up will say and then show it in our code. So that's all we needed to do here. So instead of running this changes in our in my computer, which I can, I'm going to show you how this application is running on an AppStudio player running on a real mobile phone. So I'm going to show you a separate screen of my iPhone that is being cast to this computer, and this is an AppStudio player. And we can see that this is a fire evac lookup, the same app that we have. We're going to click that. It has the same background that Chris has created. We're going to click start. And then if I select one of the fire evacuation zone, you can see that you're entering a fire zone, status evacuation order mandatory. And I can click on a different one, for example, and voluntary. So just the way I'm casting this iPhone, you won't be able to hear the voice. So I'm going to actually unplug this, let you hear it. So I'm going to changes. I'm going to click increase my volume.
Status, evacuation order, mandatory.
There it is. That is the voice that's coming out of my phone when I unplug this. And yeah, I think that's all I needed to show, Chris. Back to you.
Thank you, Erwin. All right. Thank you for that great demo, Erwin, and showing us how to, you can customize AppStudio with code. And I just want to, let you know that we have these different personas we showed that, Geohacker persona, they're not limited to doing things in, online or with Arcade. We have many geohackers, people that wouldn't consider themselves professional full-time developers, but who do use Qt Curator and do write QML code and customize apps. So it is not, it does span. Don't think that you're kind of pigeonholed in any way. It doesn't take a full professional full-time developer to customize code in AppStudio apps. All right, I just want to end here with talking about, the challenges of mobile app development, the time and cost of mobile app development, app distribution. How are you going to secure your maps and data, and how are you going to maintain multiple apps and keep them up to date? These are really all challenges that a lot of people have with mobile app development in general. And we have worked, and hopefully we've kind of shown you in this presentation that we've worked to take these challenges and make them really advantages of using AppStudio, advantages of AppStudio development. So we reduce the time and cost of building apps. We have some very flexible ways of distributing your apps, whether that's to app stores or also using AppStudio Player to distribute apps to users in your organization. We have app security, and data security using ArcGIS named user accounts. You can actually store information in a secure location in AppStudio as well if you want to secure encrypted data as well. And you can create cross-platform apps. Obviously, that's a huge advantage of using AppStudio to develop mobile apps, is that the apps you create are truly cross-platform. So thank you so much for joining us on this session, learning how to accelerate your mobile app development with ArcGIS AppStudio. I want to let you know that we have some resources available on the Esri.com website. You can get information about the app, you can get documentation, you can also download AppStudio Desktop and Player right from there. If you want to engage with us, the Esri community is a great way to do that. And we have our own Twitter handle. So if you want to get the information about AppStudio, you can do that from Twitter. And now I'm going to turn some time to Amy, and we're going to go through a number of questions that you have asked of us. So we'll now turn it over to the question time. If you have any other questions, you can type those in the GoToWebinar question interface, and we'll try to get to as many as we can.
All right, thanks, Chris. We're now going to begin answering the questions submitted during today's presentation. We've received quite a few, and we'll try to get through as many as possible, but just as Chris said, whatever we don't get to today, actually, we will be sure to address in an Esri community blog post after this webinar, so that all questions do get answered. As a reminder, you can still submit questions through the questions pane as we're going through the Q&A, right there in your attendee control panel. So let's begin. Our first question is this: I would like to create a map tour app with AppStudio and available for purchase on app stores. Is there a way to do that but make the app not open to public if searched through ArcGIS Online? Can I use an API key or some other ArcGIS platform type of thing to control access to secure resources?
All right. That I'll say that is a doozy of a question, and it's a good question. The map tour particularly was set up kind of for public consumption, but if I understand you want to host it, but not have and make it available in your app, in the App Store maybe, but not have it available for anyone just to download and zoom in or zoom into. You could going forward. And this is when you definitely probably want to talk to the team later about this individually. Going forward, you could, I guess, scope the data that is driving that map tour. You could scope that to using an API key to just your application. So that will be something kind of in the near future we will be able to do. I'm not sure if we're actually able to do that right now. So that would be only if you had you set up your data that required an API key to it, your feature service, and say that this feature service will only be really accessible using this app that I've created. I believe that will be possible in the future. Again, that's pretty. It's a great concept. What you're trying to do. I'll also let you know that if you are charging for an app in the app stores, there are some other licensing. We didn't go into too much of licensing here. There are some licensing considerations from Esri, as well as from the Qt company that we build this on top of. So we looked at Qt Creator, and there's a Qt company who we work with on to help us with these tools, and there might be some licensing considerations there. But again, please reach out to myself and the team, and it's an interesting scenario we could talk through.
All right, great. Thanks, Chris. How does AppStudio differ from apps like ArcGIS Collector or ArcGIS Field Maps?
So AppStudio is really a tool which allows you to create your own app. So in some ways, the apps is going to be your own custom data. You want give it your own branding. It's going to be your own app. If you are deploying if you're using apps in your organization to collect data, that's what Collector does. That's what Field Maps is, either capturing data or viewing data in the field. If those tools meet your needs, use them. That's great. You don't have to develop them. There's a lot of advanced things that goes into those wonderful apps, and they serve a great purpose. But if you find that there's a piece missing that you need for a specific workflow, or you want to publish an app to the public or give a very simplified interface to your app, that's where you might want to use AppStudio. But knowing that you're going to have to develop in an AppStudio, you're gonna have to build it. You're gonna have to figure out how you're going to deploy that to other people, whether that's through your organization or an app store. So there's different considerations. But if Collector or Field Maps is meeting your needs, I would suggest you use those apps because they're already built and ready to go.
All right, great. Thanks, Chris. Next question, can you tell us a bit more about what it costs to develop apps with AppStudio, and also what are the costs related to deploying apps to others, both of those?
Sure. I will preface, we didn't go into a lot about licensing and things. In some of our other sessions, like at the user conference coming up or a developer summit, we talk more about that. This was focused more on coding or the actual building of the apps. So you might want to reference one of those. I know some of them are hosted online. You can view, but I'll just briefly discuss the cost. So anyone with a named, it's kind of three different ways to look at this. Anyone with a named user account can For one thing, they can log into AppStudio Player, that Player application, and run an app that's been created by someone else or that they've created. They can run an app if they've got this, named, they got an account, an Esri account. Anyone with a creator account, so if you can create web maps, if you create content in ArcGIS Online, you can create apps with AppStudio. You can create from templates, you can actually customize with code, and you can share those apps with anyone in your organization using AppStudio Player. Now, what a lot of you want to do is you want to push apps to the app stores, or you want to create a separate, install of that app, a separate binary file. To do that, it requires an AppStudio Developer Edition license. And you get that Developer Edition license by subscribing to an ArcGIS developer subscription, a paid developer subscription. So there's different ArcGIS developer subscriptions, Builder, starting at Builder and above. You get the AppStudio Developer Edition, where you can create a separate install of your app. You can upload that to your organization, or sorry, you can upload that to an app store and distribute that. So really the key is, that developer subscription if you want the full CloudMake capabilities and all of that to fully distribute your app in any way you want. There are, in certain cases, whether it's a commercial app you're creating, your revenue generating app, there are some considerations that you might need to get a license from the Qt company for some of their developer tools to do that. And that is the specifics of that are in our online documentation.
Great. Next question. Can you use geofencing in a map tour to send alerts to mobile devices, letting people know that a POI is close by?
Hey, that sounds like a good question for Erwin.
Yeah. So I actually wanted to deter from using the term geofencing, but it is technically possible the way I do it. So the way I do it is just we are actually checking your current location with the geometry that is on the phone. Like let's say a feature layer, like the way I did it, like a polygon and your current location. So I'm just simply checking, comparing those two using a geometry engine, and then display a notification. Like the example that I did was a local notification and a text to speech. But we can also call, let's say, the endpoint that calls a webhook, and then the webhook would actually send you a text message or send you an email and something like that. It's just that I think the term geo event and geofencing are actually I don't want to use that because it meant using a different service that is provided by Esri that is not supported in AppStudio. So the answer to your question, yes.
Thanks, Erwin. All right, next question. When it comes to making web maps for AppStudio, can the layers be from map services, or do they have to be feature services?
We support map services as well. Yeah, you can use a map service as well. So anything that is we didn't talk too much about this, but AppStudio is powered by what is called the ArcGIS runtime. So we have a team here that builds this runtime, this common runtime, meaning some common components, which allows us to read different data formats, allows us to display them in a map, allows us to do things with like the geometry engine, allows us to view things in 3D. So that runtime, we have it for iOS, we have it for Android, we have it for Windows, we have it for Qt as well. So there's a Qt SDK for the runtime, and we take that Qt SDK, and because that's our tools are built on top of this Qt technology. It's pronounced Qt, it's spelled QT. So we use that Qt SDK to build AppStudio. So because of that, if you have a map in AppStudio, it's going to look the same as a map built in another runtime application. It's going to look the same as a map running inside of Field Maps or Collector, because those are built on top of runtime. So because of that, we have actually access to quite a few different types of data formats to read and interact with. We typically use feature services because of some of the things they allow us to do. But yeah, you can also use map services.
I think if I may add, if the question is actually referring to the template that we just used, which is the zone lookup template, zone lookup requires you to have a feature layer, but you can also use feature layer on top of a map service as a base map or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Can you download AppStudio photos for offline use?
Download AppStudio photos for offline use. You could create an app that I guess maybe showed photos, and there would, yeah, you could programmatically create a way to download that photo. That is possible.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a feature that's in any of our current templates, but that would be possible.
All right. Next question. Are you planning and offering a more in-depth MOOC for developing apps with AppStudio at any time?
We are not planning a MOOC. We are part of the GeoApps MOOC from Esri. There is a section on AppStudio in that. But if you were looking for, and I think this might answer maybe some of the other questions as well, if you're looking for more information, if you're looking on how to get started, looking on how to get into coding, what is this app framework, what is all these things, we have about a year ago we did a workshop, an online workshop, and we recorded it. It was a couple days long. We recorded all these different sessions with hours of it, and we posted that on YouTube. So if you go to the ArcGIS YouTube channel and search for an Esri playlist, an AppStudio playlist for our workshop. We've got hours of content that can, if you want to get started and learn how, and there's even exercises involved where you can, do some hands-on exercises. So it's not in the format of a MOOC, but it will allow you to do that. We've done a number of these workshops, and if we're looking to do that as well in the future, do another one, so you can be part of one of those. To find out about those, definitely get on our Twitter, as well as we have a newsletter that we send out. So if you send in information to feedback, AppStudio feedback at esri.com.
Yep.
Yeah, you can. If you send an email to us, we can get you on that distribution list as well. But again, so just to sum it up, we have a lot of content available on YouTube, kind of a multi-day workshop. But please give us your contact information. We might be doing another. We don't have any plan, but we're looking before the end of the year to do another one of these workshops.
Great. We'll look out for that one. All right, and final question. I seem to be unable to use an Android visual device with AppStudio, even after referencing my Android SDK location. Where can I get more help with that?
Okay, I can probably answer this question. AppStudio, you don't actually need to do any library setting or changing the path or any of that. If you install AppStudio Desktop, it will have, and it should have, everything you need in that installation, from AppStudio Desktop, the app run, the IDE, all the library. The path has already been figured out. We actually don't need to specify a path to an Android SDK, because everything runs inside this AppStudio framework. And then later, when you finish building your app, you'll send it to CloudMake, and then we'll actually compile and give you the APK for Android if you need to.
All right. Well, thank you, Erwin, and thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar, Accelerate Mobile Development with ArcGIS AppStudio. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me using my email address that you will see in your follow-up email. Once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey on this presentation, and we would greatly appreciate if you would complete that and provide your feedback. We will also be providing a recording of this presentation, which will be available within 7 to 10 business days on the GeoDev webinar landing page where you registered for this webinar.